Have you ever wondered what you can learn about the entire world just by looking at the news from a single day? I mean, just 24 hours. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's dive in and see what kind of global snapshot we can piece together from one seemingly ordinary day.
All right, so the date we're focusing on is February 15th, 2026. On the surface, it's just another Sunday. Right in the middle of the month, nothing special, right?
Well, maybe not. Because when you really start to dig into the headlines from that day, a much more complex and honestly fascinating picture of our world starts to come into focus. We're talking tension, ambition, conflict, the works. And what's wild are the key words that really defined this one day. I mean, look at these. We've got phrases like civilizational erasure, something called a mega land grab, this mysterious dart frog toxin, and a mind-boggling $5 billion promise. What on earth do these mean? Let's unpack it all. So, first up, let's look at the West. On this particular day, it's pretty clear that the Western world is really struggling, grappling with some deep divisions from within, and at the same time facing pressure from basically all sides. Okay, so picture this. You've got the super important Munich Security Conference, right? A place where allies are supposed to be on the same page. But instead, a huge ideological rift just blows up. You've got the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, warning about Europe's cultural decline. And then you have European leaders like Estonia's Prime Minister Kaja Kallas and the UK's Keir Starmer pushing back hard. They're defending their diverse immigrant societies. I mean, this is a major clash of worldviews happening right at the heart of the transatlantic alliance. It really makes you wonder just how unified everyone is in such a turbulent world. And get this, while that whole debate is raging in Europe, what's happening back in Washington? A partial government shutdown is just dragging on, all because of a bitter fight over border funding. It paints a pretty stark picture, doesn't it? A nation kind of consumed by its own internal battles while trying to project this very specific and, let's be honest, controversial vision to the rest of the world. The pressure from the outside was just as intense. On this very same day, 5 European nations dropped an absolute bombshell. They alleged that Russia used a rare and incredibly potent poison, get this, from dart frogs, to try and kill opposition leader Alexei Navalny. That just throws a whole other layer of serious friction onto what was already a super tense geopolitical climate. Okay, let's shift gears and head over to the Middle East. This single day really captures the essence of the region. You know, that intense and often contradictory mix of high-stakes diplomacy happening right next to open conflict. So, on this day, there's a huge headline-grabbing announcement from President Donald Trump. He pledges $5 billion for the reconstruction of Gaza. He says the money is going to come from something called the Board of Peace, which is this new international group of business leaders. I mean, that's a massive, massive figure. That sounds like it could be a whole new chapter for the region. But, and this is a big but, at the exact same time, the Israeli government announces its really controversial plan. They want to regulate land in Area C of the occupied West Bank, which is an area under full Israeli control. And right away, rights groups like Peace Now are calling it a mega land grab and basically de facto annexation. So do you see the contradiction? You've got this huge promise of peace-building money on one hand, and an action that many see as a huge obstacle to peace on the other, all on the same day. And at the same time, the diplomatic wheels are turning somewhere else entirely. Over in Geneva, Iran's foreign minister is meeting with the head of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. This wasn't just some casual chat, it was a super crucial meeting, really setting the stage for some incredibly high-stakes nuclear talks with the US. And amidst all this, you can't forget the very real human cost of instability. On this very day, reports are confirming it. After 3 years of just a brutal civil war, Sudan is now officially facing the world's worst humanitarian disaster. It's just a grim, heartbreaking reminder of what happens when diplomacy fails. All right, let's pivot again, this time to Asia, because this day also gives us a really clear look at the continent's growing power and its ambition to kind of reshape the whole global order. So, you have President Xi of China, who is out there actively pushing his global governance initiative, the GGI. And the core idea here is something called sovereign equality. It's a vision that's very explicitly designed to be an alternative to the traditional US-led international system we've known for decades. And speaking of rising powers, let's talk about India. Just look at what was happening in Visakhapatnam. The country was hosting not one, not two, but three huge maritime events at the exact same time. We're talking an international fleet review, a big multinational exercise, and a security symposium. This was just an incredible show of India's naval might and a clear signal of its growing role as a leader in regional security. But India's influence wasn't just about military power. Not at all. On the tech front, they were hosting a global summit on AI, trying to get a handle on the risks of this powerful new technology. And then, diplomatically, things get even more complex. The U.S. Department of Justice confirmed a guilty plea in that 2023 plot to assassinate an American citizen on U.S. soil. That whole case was a really critical and pretty challenging moment for U.S.-India relations. Okay, so we've talked about the high-level politics, the military moves, but what about the people? What were everyday people doing? Well, this day also gave us a great snapshot of that, of protest, of celebration, and of faith. 350,000. What is that number? Well, that's how many people, an estimated 350,000, marched in Toronto alone. They were out there in solidarity with the anti-regime protesters in Iran. And similar massive demonstrations were happening all over the world in cities like LA and Munich. It just shows you this powerful global movement for change in action. And now for something a little later. The 2026 Winter Olympics were in full swing over in Italy. And on this very day, Canadian skier Mikael Kingsbury won a gold medal. Just a fantastic moment of pure athletic achievement that people all over the world could celebrate. And finally, on a more personal level, millions of people all across the globe were united in a sense of anticipation. Religious authorities were putting out guides and schedules as communities everywhere prepared for the start of Ramadan, that shared time of reflection and faith. So let's step back for a second. What happens when we pull all these different threads from February 15th, 2026 together? What do we actually see? We see a world that's fracturing in some places, but forming new alliances in others. We see high-stakes diplomacy happening right next door to brutal conflict, and we see ordinary people celebrating, protesting, praying. It's a world that is just in constant, dynamic motion. And remember, all of this happened in just one 24-hour cycle. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If this is the story of just one day, what kind of incredible, complex, and totally unpredictable story is the next one going to tell?